Have you with us here on ENCA. Now, large parts of Pretoria still remain in the dark. It's after high voltage power lines had collapsed on Sunday night. Let's bring in Tshwane Mayor Cilliers Brink to find out where we are on this. Mayor, good morning to you. I appreciate your time. I'm seeing reports it was a collapse due to vandalism. Can you confirm?
Well, it would certainly seem that vandalism or attempted theft, the attempt to strip metal from these pylons, was one of the reasons that it happened. Our suspicion is very strong that it might be the proximate cause of the collapse, but obviously we would want to investigate more. On inspection yesterday, of the 7 pylons that collapsed, there was an indication that at least 3 of them had damage that would accord with an attempt to strip metal or even sabotage. So it's clear that is a reason. But I would want to have more information, including checking inspection and maintenance programs of those particular pylons.
Yeah, also causing chaos on one of the major routes in the area as well. I imagine it's been cleared out by now, of course. What's our timeline for power being restored to these parts of Pretoria?
So it's very difficult to give a timeline. And in fact, if we make promises that we simply don't have the ability to deliver on, the risk in that is that we will breach public trust even more than would a massive power outage. So the work that needs to be done now is, in certain instances, parts of Pretoria can be backfed. In other words, it can be supplied from other substations that aren't affected by the power outage, but that's not possible in all instances. And even in these cases of backfeeding, that's a temporary solution. The only lasting solution would be to source, and this is what we're busy with on an urgent basis, to source temporary structures to lift those lines up so that they can be reconnected. In this process, the help of Eskom is going to be crucial, and that's why the city manager yesterday reached out to Eskom, both to help with supplies as well as expertise to get this job done as soon as possible. But given the extent of the damage and the work that needs to be done, it is impossible at this particular stage to give an ETA. And as I mentioned, the major risk in these instances is to make a promise that cannot be kept.
When we talk about issues of vandalism, Mayor, as well, I suppose the issue now is investigations into that. But how do we now get on top of a situation where criminals are cutting down pylons as well? It's becoming more brazen, aren't they? Where are we on SAPS helping you with getting to the bottom of this?
So at the site inspections yesterday, I met members of the South African police, including crime intelligence, and I do hope that there will be an investigation into this issue. And I've encouraged the city manager to give his full cooperation, the cooperation of the team, to determine whether we can in fact identify where the trail runs to, make sure that anybody who's been involved in this, either theft or vandalism, is caught. But obviously, policing of that nature is not within the city's direct control. The Metro Police has got 3 basic functions, which is visible policing, bylaw enforcement, and traffic control. Crime intelligence and the policing of major infrastructure and economic crimes such as this is simply beyond the means of the city. But we do hope that the South African police will take every possible step to determine whether the perpetrators in this matter can be identified. The bigger challenge is, I think, in the long term, the use of technology. These pylons and the lines span vast areas that simply cannot be patrolled on a daily or even a weekly basis. And I think we have to use drone technology, cameras, whatever else we can, because our ability to physically patrol them quick enough to prevent or block criminal assault is just not there. And so we will have to go beyond what the traditional security measures to secure our infrastructure.
Yeah, once the news broke over the weekend, Mayor, I'm sure you would have seen the comments as well, many suggesting that the state of disaster, which was primarily there to deal with the issues of electricity and protection of infrastructure, was lifted too soon. This possibly, and we do say possibly, could have been avoided if the state of disaster was still in place. You agree or disagree?
No, I don't think so. No real measures were in fact taken under the state of disaster. I think there was, there were two minds about the matter at the outset. I think many people in national government didn't agree with the national state of disaster. There was no clear sense of what it would be used for. There was a clear fear that it might be abused. But no, I don't think logistically, in terms of the deployment of resources, that a national state of disaster would have prevented this from happening. Of course, we've seen other measures being taken by national government, such as a temporary ban on the export of scrap metal, and that also doesn't seem to have assisted us. I think the real challenge now is to cooperate, the three spheres of government, and to deploy technology and to really make cable theft and vandalism, which I would suggest is economic sabotage of a special kind, to make that a priority crime and to deploy all available resources to prevent instances like this from happening.
Just a final brief answer, Mayor, if you don't mind. This technology you speak of, is it currently available? Can that be deployed, for example, later today to prevent this happening in future? Or is this one of those situations where it has to go through various committees first?
It will have to go through processes, unfortunately, and what I'm speaking about is just some ideas of what could be done in the future. We see what the private sector is able to do, but obviously there are many constraints on the part of government, many bid adjudication and procurement regulations that have to be met, and that's why in the interim, I am so thankful for the private security companies who have assisted the city, especially to guard some of the infrastructure that is now exposed. If only government can move at the speed of the private sector. And I think as a longer term consideration, we have to look at how do we deploy these resources at the best possible price and at the quickest possible time in order to secure infrastructure.
The older debate of the private and public sector busy working together. Mayor, thank you very much indeed for your time. Wish it was better news, but at least Tshwane Mayor Cilliers Brink giving us an update on these fallen pylons, temporary contingency measures in place. No real timeline at the moment. So if obviously those in Pretoria that are affected aren't able to see that update with the mayor, of course. But if you know of someone affected in the Pretoria Tshwane area, perhaps you can send them the link for that interview or at least let them know what the mayor has said. So right